So this is the confusion that has existed on the priesthood since the beginning, and it's out of order for an apostle to be ordained a high priest. And yet, what do they have in the first quorum of 70 today? Showing their ignorance of the priesthood. And what did they do in 1954? They made assistants to the 12 high priests. They made assistants to the 12 out of high priests. And the law of God says in D&C 107 that the 12 are to call upon the 70 when they need assistance instead of any others. And why is that? Because they're apostles. And a high priest is not an apostle. A high priest does not have the keys of the kingdom of God. And 70, according to this quote from Brigham Young that I saw when I was picked up and carried across the room by the Spirit, was the 70s have authority to ordain high priests. And without all contradiction, the lesser is ordained of the better or the greater. Because the apostleship circumscribes every office in the church or kingdom of God. And a man that's an apostle has authority to organize the kingdom of God from first to last. And the Lord knew that this fellow, this foreordained servant of God, who would be born unto two parents that prayed and dedicated him to the service of God, that he would need to get the keys of the priesthood. Therefore, he had this back door set up, this quorum held in reserve that held the keys of the priesthood, and as a pure line of priesthood preserved by B.H. Roberts, who went behind Heber J. Grant's back and ordained men secretly, reordained them after Heber J. Grant had ordained them improperly. Because under Heber J. Grant, who was this businessman, you see, for 30 years, they were not even conferring any priesthood upon people. They were just ordaining to an office in the priesthood without conferring the Melchizedek priesthood first. And David O. McKay was, when he became president, he changed it back, the method of ordination, to the correct prayer, in which you confer the priesthood and then you ordain to an office in that priesthood. But B.H. Roberts preserved the 70s. I have two letters from him to Heber J. Grant, setting him straight on the correct order of the 70s. And he said, why mess with the Lord's plan? The Lord set this up. Why do you want to tinker with it? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but I can get the letter for you and read it. It's very, very to the point, and he was very careful about how he worded the letter, of course, because he didn't want to be hauled up on charges, which is what they would probably do. But the 70s was a great secret until I was revealed it. And did you know that Paul was a 70? The quorum of the 12 was filled at the time that Paul had his first vision. And Matthias took the place of Judas Iscariot, and Eusebius, a historian who wrote in 290 AD, states that Matthias, who took the place of Judas Iscariot, was a member of the 70. And the correct order of succession, let me show you how your presidents are not even apostles. The correct order of succession in the first presidency is that if the quorum of the 12 is organized properly, okay, there has to be that caveat there, if they abide in the Lord, okay, that's a caveat too, because in D&C 43 it says that no one shall be appointed to give revelations except my servant Joseph, if he abide in me. If he abide in me. There's always that caveat. If the leaders of your church don't abide in you, for instance, in giving the Negro the priesthood, which is a political act. It was a purely political act because Jimmy Carter came out here lusting after the Nobel Peace Prize, and he couldn't get it at Camp David, so he thought he would solve the Mormon problem. Well, he more or less did some arm twisting while he was out in Salt Lake City, and he threatened to take away their tax-exempt status. Well, they caved in. They caved in. And besides, there's all these liberals who don't know God, who are Darwinists, who believe in Darwinism, who were thinking themselves enlightened and progressive, who are clamoring for the Negro to be given the priesthood, just like they do today. It's the same mess. You see these people following Barack Obama with this crazy glazed look in their eyes. It shows they're possessed by a spirit that's not of God. They don't even know why they're voting the way they're doing. They don't know what he's done. They don't know anything about him, only that he's a black man. Well, that's the kind of spirit that was clamoring to have the Negro ordained to the priesthood. Let me see if I've got a call here. Sometimes they sneak up on me, and you'll have to forgive me if I... okay, there isn't a call. That's fine. And now, the 70s hold the keys to the kingdom of God. Wish I could find the letter from B.H. Roberts here on my computer. I should have done a little research before I got on the air, but I didn't, and I apologize for that. But if you'll hang on just a minute, maybe I can find that letter from B.H. Roberts. Okay, here I mentioned a letter. This is Brigham Young, though. Let me read this first. The 70s are apostles, and they stand next in authority to the 12. If through the providence of God the first presidency and the 12 were taken away, then it would be the duty of the 70s to preach the gospel, build up the church, and ordain every officer requisite in order to establish the church, and ordain high priests, bishops, high counselors, patriarchs, and set in order the whole church in all the world. This is according to the revelations given to us. I suppose I ordained hundreds, not just the first quorum of 70s, in early days. Brother Joseph Smith has come to us many times saying, "Brethren, you are going to ordain 70s. Do not forget to confer the high priesthood upon them, ordain each of them to the high priesthood, and to be one of the 70 apostles." This was my language in the ordination of the 70s, and that is the way I ordain them now. Brigham Young, Deseret News, June 6, 1877. And that is the very quote that I was picked up by the Spirit and carried over to read. And when I read that, I leapt and shouted for joy. Now here's another quote from Parley P. Pratt. "Because I have the keys of the kingdom of God, and there is nothing that you can do about it. Not one thing can you do about it except rebel and then be cut off, because that's what's going to happen to you if you rebel against the kingdom of God." Now why is that? Well, because the priesthood will resurrect people, and the meek will inherit the earth, because they will be the ones resurrected, while you fools who rely upon the arm of flesh for your support are going to find the arm of flesh is decayed and rotten in the grave. And that is the great patience of the saints. That's why they allowed themselves to be eaten by lions in the arena, because they knew that this world was a passing blip on the radar screen, just a tiny speck of time in comparison to eternity. So they were willing to undergo all things for the sake of the gospel.